How much can one man do to save a desperate country? American entrepreneur Greg Carr is finding out, throwing himself and much of his fortune into one of the poorest places on earth. Mozambique in East Africa is a country of spectacular beauty, but it's been laid waste by decades of war, by malaria, and by HIV. It takes a lot of vision to see opportunity there, but Greg Carr thinks he's found it in a wildlife park called Gorongosa, which he believes could be the salvation of a nation and maybe a model for the world. Greg Carr wanted our first experience of Gorongosa to be just like his was 4 years ago, a helicopter ride to see the park's vast size and breathtaking diversity.
When we flew over this, I said, this is it, because I mean, it's beautiful, it's magnificent.
It's almost 1,500 square miles of African wilderness, lakes, plains, even a rainforest. Gorongosa spreads across the heart of Mozambique, a country that lies along the east coast of southern Africa on the Indian Ocean.
Oh, wow.
Carr can't fly over it without sounding like a kid.
Okay, look at this. This is great.
There he goes.
We saw hippo, antelope, and elephant, but not many. Gorongosa is a tragedy in two parts, with the loss of its animals and the suffering of its people, whose lives haven't improved much in a few hundred years. I wonder why you chose this place. Of all the places in the world, why here?
Gorongosa was, most people consider, the most popular national park in all of Africa. And the most density of animals, the most beauty, the most diversity of ecosystems. So you have one of the most beautiful places in the world, and you also have perhaps the worst poverty of anywhere in the world, side by side.
To Carr, that's an opportunity, and it's the same kind of business sense that made him a fortune. Right out of Harvard in the mid-'80s, he and a partner developed a hot new product called voicemail. In 1998, he cashed out with $200 million and devoted himself to bringing entrepreneurship to charity.
So the idea is take the beauty of the park and use that to do human development. Attract the tourists who will spend the money to create the jobs and lift everybody out of poverty. For an entrepreneur, it's kind of a compelling opportunity to, 1 + 1 = 10.
Carr's nonprofit foundation has an agreement with the Mozambican government to develop Gorongosa Park over the next 20 years. He's putting in $40 million of his own money to try to bring Gorongosa back to what it used to be. This was Gorongosa in a film from the 1960s, before it was engulfed by war. Royalty and Hollywood stars came on safari. There were hundreds of lion here, in fact so many that a pride even took over this building. But that was then. The lion aren't coming up these steps anymore. Back when the film was made, there were 500 lion in Gorongosa, 2,000 elephants, 14,000 Cape buffalo, and 3,000 hippos. It took years of war and poaching to get it done, but by the end, almost all of those animals were gone. In one of the world's greatest wildlife habitats, the animals were forced from house and home. First, it was Mozambique's war for independence from Portugal, then a civil war that lasted 16 years. It turned Gorongosa into a battlefield and a slaughterhouse.
When we came back, the animals were gone.
Baldeo Chande was a ranger at the park before the Civil War ravaged Gorongosa. Tell me about the difference between what you saw before the war and the day that you came back.
I couldn't believe, because I went out, inside the park, to look for the animals. I was excited and I wanted to see the animals like I used to see before. And unfortunately, for the first 2 or 3 weeks, I couldn't see a single animal. It was just bush, 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 and no animals.
The people fared little better. When the war ended in 1992, Mozambique was the poorest country on earth. 900,000 had been killed. Millions were run from their homes. Then the HIV/AIDS epidemic hit. Today, most people live in villages like this one, farming, mostly hand-to-mouth.
As you can see, it's one of the poorest.
Mateus Mutimba works with Greg Carr.
You know, I noticed, hey, my man, a lot of the children their bellies are distended.
Yes.
They're obviously not well.
Yes, in most cases, they are not even aware they are sick.
When you come to a village like this, you really begin to understand one of the most shocking things about Mozambique, and that is that the average life expectancy in this country is about 40 years old. And in the next few years, they are expecting that to drop to about 35 years old. A lot of that's because of the HIV/AIDS epidemic and because of malaria, but part of it's also because folks like these can't get anywhere close to a nurse or a doctor.
The clinics are very far away. The nearest is 19 kilometers from here. So when they are sick, they stay at home, pray and hope that they will get better.
Now, compare that village we just saw with the future that Greg Carr sees. These are people from another village called Vinho. It's rush hour on the Pungwe River, which runs along Gorongosa Park. A couple of hundred of these villagers work for the park as rangers, cooks, and the like.
You know, this is Venice with crocodiles, isn't it?
We made the reverse commute. Carr wanted us to see the difference in Vinho village.
You know, I have to think that there was a temptation for a big deal IT guy from America to come in and say, okay, we're going to put the school here, we're going to put the clinic there, we're going to put a road here, this is where the wells are going to go, right? That's what you wanted to do, wasn't it?
If you come here with the, American CEO mentality, we're going to make a plan, we're going to do it, let's go and get out orders, that is the wrong way to do development in a rural place like this. Because this is their village, and they need to make those choices.
When Carr first visited 4 years ago, school met underneath that magnificent baobab tree.
That was the school, and they had a blackboard under it.
After the villagers told him they wanted a new school, Carr spent $100,000 helping them to build it. And just across the road, there was a line waiting at the new clinic they asked for, built for $200,000.
Mozambique needs 750 of these rural clinics to serve the people who now don't have any health care at all.
And how many of these have you built?
This is our first one.
This is number one.
This is it,
Out of
and
how many do you
we want to build 25.
Among the villagers, Carr's treated like a rock star. This woman told him she could never go to school before, but now, thanks to an adult education class, she can write her name.
Como está? Vinho, oye. Gorongosa, oye. Okay.
But even with all the wealth that the 200 jobs, a clinic, and a school have brought to Vinho, Carr has still got to convince the villagers to help Gorongosa succeed.
We need to decrease the amount of poaching of animals in the park because tourists want to see animals.
Tourists are returning to Gorongosa in small numbers, but to attract more, Carr knows that he needs animals, a lot more animals.
There's some baboons right over there.
Oh, yeah, big guy.
He does have one thing in abundance. Watch the crocodiles as we skimmed over the lake. The problem is big game are scarce, so Carr is trucking in new animals from all over Africa.
What have you reintroduced so far?
Last year we did wildebeest, and they've already started having calves, so that's exciting. We're doing hyena this year. We're doing some more hippo this year. I really want zebra, but I can't get them right now because I need to get zebra from Zimbabwe, and the political problems in that country, you can't get something out of there.
Carr's brought in scientists to make sure he's importing the right species and to better understand the animals he already has. They've been tracking this Gorongosa elephant herd with radio collars, and we went on a mission to replace a collar that had a dead battery. Dr. Corbus Roth has come from South Africa to help in the operation. First, he prepares the tranquilizer.
And how long will the elephant be out?
We'll have 40 minutes at least before she starts to wake up.
Is that all you need?
Yeah, in a normal operation, that's more than enough to change the collar.
Roth flies in and fires the dart. Then it's a matter of waiting until the dose knocks her out. While they wait, they drive off her calf so they won't have to knock it out too. The ground crew moves in, taking off the old collar, getting blood samples. Understanding the health of these elephants will help ensure the success of a herd that Carr is bringing in from South Africa.
By doing this, we'll be able to make thousands of other elephants safe.
They put a blindfold over her eyes to help keep her calm, and they're pouring water on her to keep her cool. The new radio collar is going on around her neck. You can tell that she's doing reasonably well because you can feel her breath coming out of her trunk. Very strong, very hot, breathing very well. In just a moment, they'll inject her with an antidote, and if everything goes as planned, she should wake right up.
When I tell you to go, you just go. Run to the car.
We go. It takes her just a little more than 2 minutes to stagger back to her feet.
Wow. Oh boy.
Once the animals are back in abundance, Carr expects big tour operators and hotels to invest in Gorongosa, throwing off enough cash to bring in more schools, clinics, roads, and electricity.
You know, one of the most interesting animals in the park, for my money, is you. And I wonder what it was about being in the technology business and making $200 million at it that you found ultimately so unfulfilling.
Actually, it was fun and exciting, but I wanted to give back. But you know, this project has done a lot more for me than I'll ever do for it. Coming to Africa, spending time here, learning from their culture, which is rich and beautiful, is a blessing.
He intends to double the size of the park and leave it completely self-sustaining. No longer a charity, but an economic engine, attracting investments, creating jobs, and in the end, standing on its own without Greg Carr.